It sounds like a tale from a royal novel, but this story is shaking the British monarchy and touching millions of hearts around the world. Nearly 3 decades after Princess Diana's tragic and mysterious death, King Charles has unexpectedly revealed a secret never before disclosed, a final wish left behind by Diana herself, carefully hidden away as if meant only for a particular moment in time. And that moment, it boom. In front of a stunned royal family, and especially her two sons, William and Harry, the king finally spoke. He revealed Diana's parting words, a last wish that she entrusted to silence. Tears flowed. Long-buried memories resurfaced. What could this final wish be, powerful enough to break down two princes? And why has King Charles chosen this very moment to unveil it? Join us as we uncover the hidden clues behind this emotional revelation and step into a side of the royal family's story that has remained in the shadows until now. The revelation did not take place at a formal press conference or during an official royal ceremony. It happened quietly, on a somber afternoon at Sandringham Estate, once Queen Elizabeth II's favorite retreat, and now a temporary sanctuary for King Charles during his ongoing cancer treatment. It was in that old drawing room, lined with weathered portraits and steeped in silence, that King Charles summoned his two sons. "There's something I should have said a long time ago," he told them, his voice low but firm. She was talking about William and Harry, her boys, her pride, her reason for pushing through every cold dinner, every public betrayal, and every tear shed in silence. Diana feared the palace would mold them into statues polished, distant, emotionally repressed. She had seen what it did to Charles, what it had done to generations before him. The monarchy didn't teach its heirs to feel. It taught them to perform, and Diana wanted no part of that for her sons. "I don't want them trapped in a life they didn't build," she wrote. "They must be free to love, to feel, to lead without masks." It was radical, it was emotional, and it was entirely Diana. She knew that one day William would carry the weight of the crown, and that Harry, as the second son, would carry something even heavier, the feeling of being the spare. She worried that both of them would be shaped by duty instead of desire, that the expectations would chip away at who they truly were. This wasn't about rebellion, it was about protection. Diana had lived through what she described as the monarchy's emotional vacuum. She had begged for warmth and received protocol. She had needed support and been handed silence. She had become the most photographed woman in the world and still felt completely unseen. And she didn't want that story to repeat. But what shocked William and Harry the most wasn't just her wish. It was the realization that their father had hidden it for over 20 years. The letter had been sealed, placed inside a private file, buried beneath layers of official paperwork in Charles's personal safe. According to insiders, Charles feared what Diana's words would do, not just to the monarchy's public image, but to its fragile structure. Behind the scenes, if Diana's final wish was for her sons to walk away from royal control, how could the institution survive? Some palace aides claimed Charles worried it would encourage Harry to distance himself further and plant dangerous doubts in William's mind. Others believe it was never about protection at all. It was about power, about control. Whatever the reason, the damage is done. The truth is out, and now both brothers are forced to confront a reality that had been kept from them their entire adult lives. But for William, the impact was even deeper because Diana hadn't just written a letter for both sons. She had written another one just for him, and the words inside would bring him to his knees. Let's look at the second letter in the moment that William finally broke. This was the letter that broke William. It was during a quiet renovation in 2004 that another letter was found, this time hidden inside one of Diana's personal albums, long stored away and forgotten. This one was addressed only to William. Unlike the formal tone of Diana's public letters, this one was deeply intimate, almost like a conversation between mother and son. When William read it, it reportedly shattered him. In it, Diana warned him of the life he would inherit, the pressures, the expectations, the cost of the crown. "You will be king one day," she wrote, "but promise me you won't lose the boy inside you." William, now a man with his own family and royal duties, was overwhelmed by the simplicity of the message. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about legacy. It was about holding on to himself. Be kind. Be human. Be more than what the crown expects. Those close to William say the letter broke him in a way nothing else ever had. He had spent years walking a tightrope serving the crown, raising a family, and carrying the weight of expectation. And suddenly, in a few pages, his mother reminded him of everything he had tried not to forget. Even now, years after her death, Diana was parenting from the grave. But her words didn't just trigger emotions. They raised deeper questions. Had William stayed in the system out of duty or fear? And in contrast, was Harry the one who actually honored Diana's final wish? The divide between the brothers had been growing, but now the letter made that divide feel personal. And it all goes back to how Diana chose to raise them. This was Diana's revolutionary approach to motherhood. Diana didn't raise her sons like royals. She raised them like boys. Fast food, secret theme park trips, and school drop-offs, she didn't care what tradition said. She cared that William and Harry experienced life outside the palace gates, and people noticed. "She took us on the tube," Harry once said. "She wanted us to see the real world." Diana believed that the monarchy could be human, that future kings should understand the people they would one day lead. That empathy wasn't weakness, it was strength. She sat with the homeless, walked through minefields, held AIDS patients' hands, and she brought her sons with her. She didn't want them to grow up behind walls. She wanted them to feel, to understand, and to serve from the heart. She didn't want kings, one close friend recalled. She wanted good men. This approach shaped William and Harry in very different ways. William stayed, Harry left, but both carry her values, even if in opposite directions. Diana's motherhood style broke every royal rule, but it also gave her boys the foundation to be more than princes. Still, as they grew up, one thing became clear: their paths were no longer the same. And Diana's final wish was about to draw an invisible line between them. Let's talk about the fallout and the question no one wants to ask. This is William versus Harry. The letter forced a confrontation, not just with the past, but with each other. William stayed, Harry walked away. But who honored Diana's wish more? That question now hangs over the brothers like a storm cloud. Because if Diana asked for freedom, then wasn't Harry the one who truly listened? But it's not that simple. William chose duty, but he also chose stability. He built a family, stayed within the institution, and tried to change it from the inside. But that doesn't mean he ignored Diana's message. It just means he carried it differently. Still, after reading her words again, insiders say William felt conflicted, even guilty. One aide described him as emotionally frozen for days. Harry, on the other hand, felt vindicated. The letter echoed everything he had felt, but was never allowed to say. And now the divide between them has only deepened. The letter wasn't meant to pull them apart. It was meant to set them free. But maybe Diana underestimated one thing. The crown doesn't give up its sons without a fight, and King Charles was right in the middle. This is King Charles's dilemma between legacy and loyalty. Why did King Charles hide Diana's final letter for so long? That's the question echoing through royal walls and now across the world. The answer isn't as simple as betrayal or fear. According to those close to him, it was a dilemma Charles has never truly escaped. On one side, the crown's centuries of tradition, duty, and image. On the other, Diana, the woman who challenged everything the monarchy stood for and the mother of his children. When Diana passed, the palace was already in crisis. Public sympathy leaned heavily toward her. The monarchy looked cold. Charles, still seen by many as the cause of her pain, was struggling to regain public trust. And then came that letter, her final request for freedom, truth, and emotional honesty. Charles, insiders say, believed that if this letter ever saw daylight, it could split the royal family for good. it would raise painful questions. Had they ignored her dying wish, were her sons being raised against the values she stood for? So he locked it away. He thought he was protecting everyone. One former aide revealed the institution, his sons, even himself. But silence isn't protection. It's postponement. And now, with the truth finally revealed, that choice to hide it looks less like loyalty and more like fear. And for William and Harry, it adds another layer of pain. Because while Charles mourned Diana privately, he erased her last words publicly. Was he trying to preserve legacy or preserve power? It's a question that may never be answered fully. But what we do know is this: Diana saw this coming. She feared that the system wouldn't just change her, it would change her sons. And that fear was something she put into writing long before the world heard her cry. And now, through her words, we understand just how much she worried about the world her boys were inheriting. This was Diana's fear of the monarchy's emotional coldness. From the outside, Buckingham Palace is a symbol of grandeur, history, and power. But to Diana, it felt like a cage, one where emotions weren't welcome and silence was survival. Long before her passing, Diana spoke openly, though often privately, about what she called the emotional emptiness of royal life. Behind the smiles and ceremonies, she felt a coldness that pierced deeper than protocol. In her private writings, she warned that this same coldness would one day affect her sons. They will learn to smile and wave, she wrote, but who will teach them to feel? She didn't want William and Harry raised on rehearsed lines and carefully measured responses. She wanted them to feel safe expressing love, grief, anger, all the things the royal system discouraged. She feared they'd become emotionally distant, lonely, and worst of all, numb. That's why she clung so tightly to the human parts of motherhood: bedtime cuddles, handwritten notes, surprise outings. She was fighting, not just for their affection, but for their emotional survival. And now, years later, Diana's fears seem hauntingly accurate. William has admitted struggling with the burden of expectation. Harry has spoken about emotional repression, therapy, and trauma that went ignored for years. The palace may have polished them into perfect images, but Diana knew that without emotional truth, the crown could turn hearts to stone. And that truth led to a moment William will never forget, a regret he's carried since the night she died, and one the letter brought crashing back. I should have said more. For Prince William, the loss of his mother didn't hit all at once. It came in waves, moments of silence, flashes of memory, and one phone call that still haunts him. On the night Diana died, William had been at Balmoral. He was just 15. She called. It was brief, visual. She said she missed him, that she'd see him soon, and he rushed off the phone to keep playing. Years later, William revealed, that call sticks with me by showing I should have talked longer. I should have said more. And then came her letter. Reading Diana's final words brought that memory crashing down on him. Her wish that he stay emotionally open, that he never lose his kindness, that he never stop saying how he felt. It wasn't just her request. It was a mirror, one that forced William to confront the hardest part of grief, the words left unsaid. Those close to him say he wept after reading the letter. He didn't speak for hours. He walked alone through the palace gardens for nearly an entire day, trying to process it all. Because while the world saw a future king, Diana saw a little boy who still needed his mom. That kind of truth doesn't just sting, it reshapes you. But while William reflected quietly, Harry's reaction was different. For him, the letter didn't just explain the past. It justified everything he had done since, from silence to rebellion. For Prince Harry, Diana's death wasn't just loss. It was silence. He shut down, pushed his pain inward for years. He buried it beneath duty, appearances, and the demands of royal life. But now, with Diana's letter in his hands, everything made sense. She had known. She had feared this exact path. She had begged for a different one. In her letter, she didn't tell him to run, but she did tell him to choose to listen to his heart, to protect his peace, to walk away if that was the only way to protect his soul. "You don't owe the crown your spirit," she wrote. "You owe yourself happiness." Harry reportedly broke down reading those words, and for the first time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe leaving the firm wasn't betrayal, it was bravery. "She gave me permission," he later said to a close friend. That letter became his vindication, his emotional reckoning, the proof that his departure wasn't a rebellion. It was a return to his mother's truth. But in walking away, he also walked into deeper conflict with William, who stayed. And now the brothers stood at a crossroads once again, two paths, two choices, but one shared mother and one final dream she hoped they'd both remember. This was Diana's vision for kind-hearted leadership. Diana didn't dream of crowns. She dreamed of compassion. In her final letter, she laid it out clearly. Her hope was not for powerful kings, but for kind men. She wanted her sons to lead with empathy, not entitlement, to listen before commanding, to comfort before ruling. She feared that the system would teach them to obey without questioning and lead without feeling. And she begged them to resist that. "Kindness will be your strength," she wrote, "not status." This was more than a wish. It was a blueprint, a vision of a new kind of royalty, one that served, not ruled. And today, hey, you can still see echoes of that dream in both William and Harry, in their mental health campaigns, in their charity work, in the way they speak, not from pedestals, but from experience. Diana's influence lives on in every vulnerable interview, every emotional moment, every human gesture. Because while the monarchy may wear gold, Diana believed it should carry heart. But even as her sons carry parts of her dream, the question still remains. Can they carry it together, honoring her legacy, despite the tension, despite the distance, despite the pain? William and Harry are still connected by one unbreakable bond, their mother's legacy. Diana's letter didn't just open old wounds. It reminded both brothers of what they once had in common, a shared purpose, a mission born not from tradition, but from love. And though their paths have split, William within the system, Harry outside of it, they've both tried to live out her values. You see it in their causes. William has thrown himself into mental health awareness, launching campaigns like Heads Together, encouraging open conversations around emotional struggle. Harry, on his own path, co-founded the Archewell Foundation, focusing on healing, compassion, and storytelling that uplifts. Two approaches, but one message. One royal aide said it best: they're not following her steps. They're walking in her spirit. Still, the question remains. And is this shared mission enough to bring them back together? The answer is complicated. William believes in duty, in upholding the crown that his mother once feared, but he also wants to modernize it, make it more human, more grounded, more in touch with the world Diana showed him. Harry, meanwhile, believes the only way to honor Diana is to break free entirely. He walked away so he could finally breathe, so his children wouldn't grow up inside the same pressure cooker. And while both brothers may be working toward the same vision, their disagreement on how to get there has created a distance no letter can close overnight. Still, the fact that they're both carrying her light in their own way proves something powerful. Diana's legacy wasn't buried with her. It's alive. It's evolving. And it's still shaping the monarchy from the inside and the outside. But if the world wants to understand the root of it all, it lies not in the public images of Diana, but in the pages of her private truth. Let's turn to the diary that reveals the heart of a woman who was never afraid to feel. This was the unfiltered truth. Diana's public life was a performance, a mask, a role she wore for cameras, tabloids, and a country desperate for a princess. But in her private diary, she didn't perform, and she confessed. These pages, it never meant for the world to see, revealed the raw and painful journey of a woman pushed to the edge. She wrote about loneliness, self-doubt, and the growing fear that she was losing control of her own life. "He hates that they love me more than him," she wrote in one entry, referring to Charles and the tension that grew as her popularity soared. She spoke openly about her battles with bulimia, her cries for help, and the crushing silence that followed every time she reached out. But even in her darkest moments, Diana never stopped fighting for herself and for her sons. "They are the only part of my life that makes sense," she wrote. "I will not let them become shadows." She feared that William and Harry would be used as royal symbols, emotionally distant, image-obsessed, and disconnected from the world around them. And now, looking back, we can see just how prophetic her words were. In her diary, she warned of emotional repression, of royal coldness, of a future where love would be hidden behind titles. And yet, her honesty gave her sons something most royals never received: permission to be vulnerable. Her diary, together with a final letter, forms one message loud and clear: protect love over legacy, protect heart over hierarchy. And with that, the stage is set. Because now that the truth is out, the royal family stands at a crossroads. One final question remains: will they honor the past or follow the future his mother dreamed of? Let's find out. This is a kingdom at a crossroads. Now that Diana's last wish is no longer a secret, the entire monarchy faces a moment of truth. Because this isn't just a private family drama anymore. This is a test of what the crown stands for and what it will become. Will William follow the path of kings before him, or will he fulfill the vision Diana laid out: a monarchy led by empathy, son, not ego? That's the decision he faces now. He's already shown signs of change: more openness, more emotional engagement, a willingness to speak about grief, mental health, and the human side of leadership. But Diana's letter adds weight to every move he makes now. Every decision is under a new kind of scrutiny, not just from the public, but from the ghost of his mother's legacy. As for Harry, the letter vindicated his choices, but it also deepened the gap between him and his brother. Will this shared truth bring them back together, or has too much already been said and too little forgiven? The palace hasn't issued an official statement. Don't expect one anytime soon. But make no mistake, everything has changed. The Queen is gone, Charles is aging, and the next generation is rising under the shadow of a woman who challenged the system and paid the ultimate price. Nearly 3 decades have passed since that fateful night in Paris, when a speeding Mercedes crashed into the pillar of the Alma Tunnel, claiming the life of a woman who had captured the hearts of millions. Princess Diana's death was not merely a tragic car accident. It became the beginning of countless questions, conspiracy theories, and a silence that has never truly been broken. Diana left this world when her sons were still too young to understand what had really happened. William was just 15, Harry, only 12. They grew up under the relentless scrutiny of the press, the heavy weight of royal expectations, and a grief too vast for words. Yet from that tragedy, the two brothers grew into men walking two very different paths. William embraced duty. He followed the royal path, becoming a symbol of composure, tradition, and stability in the eyes of the British public. Harry, on the other hand, broke away from the monarchy, boldly choosing to forge a life of freedom and authenticity far from palace walls. And yet, despite their differences, both sons carried Diana within them, in their compassion for the vulnerable, in their desire to live true to themselves. Perhaps the letter King Charles revealed wasn't just a message from the past. Perhaps it was a key unlocking something long buried, a quiet reminder of maternal love, of vulnerability, and ultimately, of forgiveness. Princess Diana once said, "Being a mother is the most important role in my life, and I will never stop fighting for my children." Maybe she is still fighting for them in her own silent way, through the memories she left behind, through the questions that still echo, and now, through a final wish that may touch the very heart of the monarchy. If this story moved you, if you've ever followed Diana with admiration and empathy, we invite you to stay with us to help keep the flame of truth alive. Click subscribe and join us as we continue to uncover the hidden corners of the British royal family where smiles can be masks and secrets always carry weight. There's so much more to tell, and this journey has only just begun.